What up, Reject Nation? We are here today to watch Moon Knight episode 3. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Coy Jandreau with us back. Follow him on TikTok for a whole bunch of videos he does about all kinds of things. It's great stuff, right, Coy?
It's great stuff. Long form YouTube, short form TikTok.
Yeah. Hey, guys, full-length watch-alongs we sync up with the time code for Moon Knight or where, John?
They're over at our Patreon page. Go over there, sync up with the time code. We also got a bunch of other shows thanks to everyone who's become a super reject. It means a ton.
But if you can't do that, at least leave a like. That helps us out in the algorithm, and leave your thoughts down below what you thought about this episode. Lastly, we should thank who?
We should thank the boys at Prepper for editing down the highlights.
All right, guys, I think we're ready to hop into this, aren't we, Coy?
Episode 3, very excited.
All right, I've included both of you. You guys happy?
I feel
I'm
included.
so happy.
All
I
right,
feel
let's
seen.
do this, guys. Shut up!
And then I found him with the scarab, living 20 minutes from our old place.
What?
He's probably going to get himself killed running around Cairo.
That's why you look so unhappy to be going home.
I love her hair.
Bootleg passport factory.
Well, I can't believe he let you teach you how to do all of this.
The man indulged you. You think his dig sites were any place for a child? Archaeology. One big mess of obsessive bookwork.
I just put together who she is.
In what sense?
We'll talk later.
Okay.
Call me sentimental, but I worry about you. Have a good trip, love.
What a great scene.
Hope we see her again.
For comic readers, I think she might be the daughter of the scientist who was digging up that Bushmaster kills in the comics.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that.
We've all read that.
Let me hear it.
Consult John. He's a comic expert.
And if you're already watching this, you've already seen the episode, so they might have already clarified that. Just a theory.
We found Ahmed. She's here.
Marc Spector's in Cairo. He's tracking us.
I know. She's here.
All it took was a white man to find her.
A white man with a compass of gold.
We get shit done, guys.
You're never gonna find Harrow.
Really?
Eh?
Oh, wow. Oh. What are we dancing? We fighting? What are we gonna do?
Keep Khonshu's name out your fucking mouth.
I love the difference in physicality between the two.
No time to taunt.
Where have I seen this guy before?
Mark! Don't do it, Mark. Stop it. Stop.
Oh.
Oh shit, that
Now
is
he's
so
the one
cool.
that's- yeah.
They've switched perspective. Oh, that is so awesome.
So we stay with our one lead.
Where are you taking me? You are at the airport. Airport.
He said, why are you acting like a foreigner?
Yeah.
Because Steven could speak the language.
Or was it Jake for a minute?
Let me talk to you for a second. يا عم الفلوس. عارف فلوس. الفلوس يا عم.
Just avoid all mirrors, Mark. Real Born Identity vibe to this.
Absolutely. The Mark identity.
Mark.
God damn it.
Mark. That's enough.
We need the info.
Oh shit.
Oh, God. Steven, what did you do? I swear it wasn't me.
Oh!
Is it Jake?
Where's the tomb?
Take him to the ledge.
He's just a kid.
He'll talk.
Jake Lockley is a cab driver in Egypt.
He speaks the language.
Praise Ahmed.
Oh. Yep.
Damn.
You could have stopped him, Mark.
You got guts, kid.
To signal for an audience with the gods is to risk their wrath.
What? Well, what's the worst that could happen?
Anger them enough, and they'll imprison me in stone.
You have any good ideas?
Never.
I have a bad one.
Khonshu,
I'm going to bite Harrow's head off. I'm going to eat Mr. Harrow.
What are you doing?
Oh.
Sending the gods a signal they can't ignore.
Eclipse it. Good way to make the news.
Our case against Harrow must be indisputable.
aren't you coming with?
Oh, I'll be there.
A lot of interesting use of oneers here.
And the Khonshu appearing very
Yeah.
like disorientingly.
You've been banished once for nearly exposing us, Khonshu. But manipulate the sky again, and we will imprison you in stone.
Spare me your self-righteous threat!
We simply trust our avatars to carry out our purposes, without calling undue attention to ourselves. Not like some of us.
Avatars are not enough!
So good.
Speak your purpose.
I call for judgment against Arthur Harrow!
The charges?
Conspiracy to release Amit!
That is a heavy accusation, Khonshu.
Just go a few miles, you'll find one.
Just look left.
All he
Summon
talks
the
about.
accused.
Oh, shit.
So I see by the presence of Khonshu's current makeshift avatar. Look, our meeting must be nefarious.
You know exactly why we are here!
This is a man who literally does not know his own name. I have no idea how many personalities he must possess. The man is clearly insane.
Whoa.
We will not tolerate violence in this chamber.
We'll just let it happen outside.
Are you unwell?
Oh no. Oh, Stephen Grant.
This is about how dangerous he is, if you will just listen for a second.
He has committed no offense. This matter is concluded.
Check his tattoo out.
I feel like we just watched like a 10-minute tragic play.
In a Shakespearean set. Like
Yeah, exactly.
A Magi named Senfu. He was tasked with recording the location of the tomb in case the gods ever changed their minds and decided to show mercy. His sarcophagus was stolen and sold on the black market. You might want to start there.
Maybe it's back at the
This is a
museum.
fast-moving episode.
What the hell are you doing here? You shouldn't be here.
Why? Because my name pisses off a few people in Cairo? Who cares?
It's not the locals that I'm worried about.
Come with me. I'll help you find what you need.
Kind of a creep, Khonshu.
little bit of a creep.
Just so you know, I'm not here to help you. I'm here for me and for everyone else who would die if Harrow succeeds.
If they get back together, is it a polyamorous relationship?
Yeah. Multiple personalities.
Don't you
She's
do
dating
anything with
Steven and
Steven.
Mark.
You do anything with Steven, I'm gonna know.
Ah, Egyptian Ren Fair.
Everyone loves a good joust.
Right this way.
Marvel's A Knight's
Looking
Tale.
forward to seeing you. After Madripoor, I'm sure you two will have a lot to talk about.
Madripoor! Yes! They mentioned something we know!
References!
No, he gets private lessons by the best in his backyard.
Oh, God.
This is my husband, Rufino.
Yes. Good to meet you. Pleasure.
Why such interest in Senfu in particular?
Oh, actually, our purchases.
Sorry, but I'd like to hear from your husband, if you don't mind.
But I think I just would love to take a look.
Feel free.
Great.
Yeah.
Rodrigo Santoro's an asshole.
There's no location indicated.
Because the information has to be unlocked. It's coded.
Okay, will you give me a minute? I gotta talk to Steven. Just
He just needs a couple of minutes in there alone. He's praying.
like this?
Yeah. Now, if you match those stars up with the other piece over there and put it all together, it should make a star.
Hey, what are you doing?
Whoa!
Oh, damn.
Well, that's interesting. It appears we have a concerned third party here. Get up.
Of course. This asshole.
You keep thinking that distance will prevent the wounds from your father's murder from reopening. Your husband doesn't tell you the truth. You don't tell her because you know that if you do, she'll see you exactly as you see yourself.
What are you waiting for?
He's gone. Where is he? Here comes Mooncape.
Yeah! Nice.
Buy me some time.
Back into that.
Whoa.
Nice work. Ouch.
Stop it! Stop it!
Stop. Steven, let him do his thing. Awesome.
Give me the body, Mark!
Ooh.
Oh, that's cool.
Sorry.
That's it, time out! Guys, let's all calm down, yeah? We're all worked up. Let's all just like chill the F out and talk for a second. Take the body!
Take the body, Mark.
Oh, God.
Such an odd.
Ow, go, boy.
Nice.
I love that they're like the companion pieces to his moons.
Layla!
For love! Into the mist. There are parts of his fighting that remind me of Ben Affleck's Batman.
The acrobatics and brutal, like, punch downs.
What was Harrow talking about?
What do you mean?
He said I had a right to know.
I have no idea.
I have herpes.
I think he killed her dad.
We need Steven. He understands all of this. I really think it's worth giving him a shot.
I summon the gods, you summon the worm.
It's okay, just let go. I don't have time.
You might need that mirror.
Well, now he needs it. For mirror purposes.
All right, go ahead, you're in. Cheers, thanks a lot.
Cool, nice.
Masterclass with Oscar Isaac.
Fucking incredible.
They came up with a way to get about using the sun and the stars. It's bloody genius, isn't it? Et voila. It's French.
Oh my God, she's falling for him.
We should be able to triangulate the stars into coordinates, right?
Unless we know exactly what the sky looked like on that date, we're buggered.
I remember that night.
I was the one who made James Cameron change the Titanic star.
He would have fit on that door, though.
It will come at a cost, and I cannot do it alone.
Are you gonna get trapped in stone for that?
I mean, it's kind of a big deal.
Do what I do.
Oh,
awesome.
Fucking cool.
Whoa.
Whoa. Oh, I love that. That's great.
The TVA is not going to be happy about this.
Wow.
It's working.
Wow. Before all that pollution.
Great transition.
I don't know how much longer I can do this.
I got it.
Khonshu.
And in the end, he left us no choice. He's tethered to this place.
You saw Khonshu. How's it feel?
I'm going to do what you could not. And when it's finished, I want you to remember one thing. Your torment forged me. I owe my victory to you.
Goddamn.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
What a dense episode. That was so much.
Dense?
Dense.
Are we talking about Eternals?
Whoa, guys. I mean, there was a lot of non-interference from the gods, so we could be.
It's true. Are we
Like
still
that-
doing your credit joke?
We're not doing the credit joke.
We gotta do the credits joke.
I do
Come
like
on.
that they change up the credits every
Yeah,
time.
every episode.
And they also change up the music too.
I'm really curious if we're getting Jake now that we have a mysterious third identity
Do you think you can buy that little Khonshu statue?
within a week.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's coming.
Absolutely. Merch.
I also like that Mr. Knight is now just representative of the other identities Moon Knight. They can kind of play with that to make him less of a... It wasn't a punchline, but it was a joke in how he was used, and now they can evolve that. And that's what I was hoping they do with him.
Well, just in that moment alone, Steven's necessity really came into the fold this time.
Yeah, and Mr. Knight was a necessity because the control.
I don't think there's a post-credit scene.
Probably not post-credit scene.
But we should wait
We
and
should
see
still
the
wait
bit.
for safety.
Okay.
Well, did you guys like it?
I liked it.
I had a great time. Part of me was a little worried that maybe we would get into the middle and it would start to sag, but it did not.
It had one of the crazier fight scenes I think we've seen in a Disney Plus show. Many stabbings. I also was a little worried that it was moving at such a fever pace at the top that the sag metaphor is solid. I don't know if I'd get exhausted by it. Like I was worried it would either dip or it'd be overwhelming like too much. But somehow I'm just tired in a good way.
I do kind of wish the pacing of this was more like how it was in the last.
The first two was definitely a different, more controlled pace.
Well, I think the last 10 to 15 minutes of this episode, like when Layla and him are driving and they're talking and then they go to the sands, that's when I was like, kind of wish this was a little bit more of the pacing for the rest of the episode because they did jam pack it a lot to the point where so much was just happening. He's chasing down people. We don't know exactly who they're chasing down.
For 10 minutes, I thought we accidentally watched the wrong thing that came back.
Yeah, because there's a time jump, and then it's
I was
just
like,
like, whoa,
guys.
we're doing a Bourne movie all of a sudden, and it's moving at such a whiplash pace. You have like everything with Arthur Harrow going on, and then Marc Spector, and then when they like, oh, now we're gonna meet the gods, and now we're dealing with this trial, and it was just
It's
like
a lot.
boom, 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 and then now we're doing this like we need this handsome dude,
Handsome guys
with
here.
with the map. I'm like, okay, it got to the point where I found myself just paying attention to get information, and I wasn't really affected by as much, like whereas the last two really gave me a lot of feels. But I think the last like 15-20 minutes of this episode really made up for how I was feeling towards the first half of this one.
I would have preferred 7 episodes and had that be like 1.5 episodes. Like I would have
This one
preferred,
especially.
yeah. So like I would have preferred the show been a little longer overall. I mean, obviously we don't know how it's gonna land, but like that was a lot to digest. No post credit.
But no post credit. It's interesting because I really loved the first 2 episodes a lot. And this was like it's easily out of the 3 so far, this is easily the one I would rank third out of them all. But there's still a lot to appreciate, I'd say. I don't know Egyptology. I don't know the history of it all. My most knowledge comes from Indiana Jones and the Mummy. And
That's all you need.
my 1 year in social studies where I really paid attention because I like those movies. That's about as far as it goes.
See, movies are important. They
Movies-
you pay attention in history
They
class.
might inspire you to pay attention
for
and get
1
a
year.
good grade once in a
Once.
while.
I vividly remember that
was
period of
obsessed.
social studies.
Yeah, it worked.
About
See?
Osiris and Anubis, it was great.
Any teachers watching at home, bring in that VCR combo. Scroll that in.
So I liked getting a lot of that lore and history. That's what I mean. I think there's a lot to appreciate there, and I think the set design is really cool. The way they've evolved Khonshu as well. Like here was the first time I really got the sense that this guy, while a little bit twisted in how he's like, I really want that Layla girl. You get a sense of actual care from him in this one, especially in that like those last moments. The most consistent factor that I find really strong is you know, Oscar Isaac interacting with Oscar Isaac. That to me is easily the strongest one. We'll get to like our theories and speculation on what's going on, a little bit involving Layla and perhaps the third personality. But one, I know we went out of order. You're supposed to be the one that kicks us off, kicks the ball.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with your assessment in that this does feel like they kind of crammed stuff in. Like, it was all interesting. Like, it's one of those situations where for me, I was interested in everything and I was pleased with everything that we were getting. But yeah, I was like, this whole, you know, trial seems like it ought to be an expanded sequence or something like that. It's funny because you have so many reasons to go Indiana Jones or The Mummy, and there are shots that make me think of that. But yeah, this was much more of sort of like a, you know, foot chase heavy Paul Greengrassy style thing, and I like that stylistic shift. I feel like it's within the personality of this show, and it lends credence to the whole like, we're gonna go a little more hardcore. I'm a little bit distracted when it is like, yeah, they're throwing down on harsher choreography that still has no blood in it.
Yeah.
You know, so there is
we can have blood as long as it's a cut to, and you don't see the blood come out.
It's weird. It was more effective to me in the first episode when you have Stephen black out and then come back with the blood all over the scarab of his hand. Yeah, and it's like, you know, obviously the trade-off is you get the blood because you don't get the violence in that situation. But, you know, I mean, that's just a little thing that did kind of stick out at me, as I'm curious to see how the MCU going forward, especially in these shows, will bridge that gap, because I don't think they've fully managed it here. The character stuff was really great, and from the last episode I remember us being like, I don't know really if I wanted to see behind the curtain of Arthur Harrow with, you know, his sinister intent, the way he drains that homeless guy. But I thought the way they brought it back around with him in this episode with his scenes, like, it brought it back to that place of authentic pathos that comes from him. That whole monologue he gives at the end about, like, you know, if this mission I'm on, you know, I owe my conviction and, you know, the strength and the burden to you. Like, I thought that brought him back to a pretty interesting spot, and it helped to alleviate the sort of repetitive structure that this would have, in the sense that you have Mark and Layla, you know, scrambling to get somewhere, and they do, and then, hey, here comes Arthur Harrow. He's pretty chill about it, and he's in control. And that happens, you know, a few times, but I thought that when they really settled into scenes, that was when the episode would sing.
I totally agree with the Arthur Harrow stuff. I'm back to being 100% interested and immersed in his character, and Ethan Hawke is crushing this very unlikable, likable, charming. Like, every action he's doing is impossibly evil, but he's so charismatic and interesting, you're like, tell me more about your weird, crazy goal. So that's, like, really impressive work. And also, I don't know if I've ever seen work with a DID study quite like what Oscar Isaac's doing, because not only do we see visual transformations with just like eyebrow use and all those things from one personality to another, but when he's taken over by Khonshu and the voice of Khonshu feels like it's bursting out of him and he's like getting exhausted by like being overwhelmed by this voice, that's another complete entity and another complete acting style. The work in this is insane. And Layla, we got that whole opening scene where we hadn't really had a lot of time with Layla one-on-one. It was really smart to open with that, endear us to her, that way we're more invested in their relationship throughout this episode. So if you only know Mark and Steven, you don't really worry about Layla's relationship. But by the end, we're like, man, Layla's falling for Steven and falling out of love with Mark at the same time. And now we care about Layla because of that 1 8-minute scene. So the structure worked for me. But if this episode was an hour and a half, or if this was spread across 2, I would have preferred it, just because I do feel like when you eat a sandwich that has too many toppings, some bites are more delicious than others. And there were moments in this that felt like a too salty bite, and I wanted the bites to be spread out.
It's a really great metaphor.
Great metaphor.
You use that before?
Solid.
No, I literally thought of it in this moment.
That's like a perfect metaphor to describe this episode.
Too many toppings in my sandwich.
Yeah.
Also, I'm hungry.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of... I'm pretty hungry too. I'm sure there's a lot of people who probably like really... Other people like this is their favorite, and it's totally fine. Yeah, I think there's a lot to appreciate. I think the action was cool. I prefer more the close-ups on Moon Knight when he's fighting, because sometimes he was moving out way too fast for me. Like when he got to the roof, I'm like, what the fuck? He was just there like a second ago.
I also think this would have been a really hard script to direct, because I imagine Muhammad looked at the script and went, okay, we're gonna cover this today. Like, just like the sheer volume of what this episode needed to do, because we haven't seen,
and shooting
4, 5,
on location too,
and like we haven't seen where this goes and what they had to connect from blank to blank to. But I can't imagine this was not intimidating.
No.
So like it's a really impressive feat from the actor standpoint, director standpoint, production design standpoint, costume design standpoint. One of my favorite scenes of this whole series so far is what they just did at the end with Khonshu and Mr. Knight, literally going back through time. But I can't imagine looking at the script starting with Layla and ending with that and being like, this is an episode of television. It feels like it was also quite the bite to take when looking at a 6-episode series, which makes me really intrigued what 4, 5, and 6 are, because if this was to 3, what is the rest of the show?
Yeah, I haven't lost faith in it, because normally with these shows, I'm like, okay, episode 1 and 2 were kind of slow, but 3's when it gets good.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting effect when you're like, yeah, 3 was okay, but 1 and 2 were great. So it's like, it makes you still like heavily invested.
I'm like AA, B+ so far. Like, it's still high for me, but it was just a slight, and that was just overwhelmed, which a lot of people also like, this is gonna, I mean, I'm sorry to us, but we're a little older. Like, maybe there's the next generation who's more of the TikTok mindset where they're like, I need stimuli. Keep going. I need more at all times. There's a very plausible reason that like Disney making a show that's this dense might have felt the compulsion to have this much in an episode, because a lot of people are on their phones when they watch TV. A lot of people are scrolling. A lot of people, you can't with this episode. So maybe there is something to, like, when we look back at 60s and 70s movies, the pacing is like watching paint dry for me 80% of the time. I struggle. This might be us just getting old and this is the new standard, and we're just seeing it and feeling like overwhelmed for the first time. Like, I don't know what the standard operating procedure for content and like amount in time is going to be in 5 years, but it could just be like, we're old.
Yeah, maybe, Coy. That's what it is.
Pacing is a timeless cinema.
I'm saying younger people might enjoy it more, but it's still a B+ for me personally. It's still like one of the better Marvel shows so far.
I think with the fighting, it was interesting. I like the close-ups on him more, because that's when it looked the more real.
Practical, yeah.
There were parts of it that I'm like, oh, that does feel like Ben Affleck in the warehouse fight, in certain shots, certain moments when he is pounding on them. Sometimes, though, I am curious why some shots of Moon Knight's outfit, there are some shots where I'm like, I get why that part looks CGI, but why does this other part look CGI? And so I don't really understand the mechanics. I know they do these like behind the scenes on their Disney Plus shows. I'm curious to know why some shots are like so overtly CGI when it doesn't feel like it necessitates it, but and it pulls me out, because I feel like with Khonshu, they've like mastered how to do Khonshu in like broad daylight or at night. They know how to really like mask him, shadow him in to the point where it looks so good. And even like the last effects, you know, with the stars and stuff, I thought was beautiful. The bowl that looked like straight out of the comic. It was amazing to look at. Mr. Knight always looks fantastic, but then Moon Knight sometimes I'm going, why does he look so computer at times when he doesn't seem like he needs to? I like the fight a lot. It definitely, like you said, more stabby than most of the more stabby.
Also
there we
inventive.
go.
We've seen thousands of fights. I've never seen a horse spike fight. So I like having a new style of fight, because the comics are able to do so many different. Also, I didn't even. This is the highlight of the episode for me, and it's a silly small thing, but because of my comic book love, they did the thing here that Eternals failed at. You guys know I love Eternals.
What?
I knew it was coming. I even looked. In Eternals, they made a movie that felt removed from the MCU, but had to go like, remember the MCU, with a couple lines of dialogue that for me felt forced and actually like took me out instead of in. This mentions a location within the MCU in a context that makes sense, and it goes, hey, we're gonna keep this very unique tone. This show feels nothing like a lot of the MCU, but because the word Madripoor in a sentence that fits in context is said, in the comics that word would have been bold. Like, you would have just felt that little like connectivity, and therefore this feels like the comic version of a shared universe more than the MCU. The MCU feels like the movie shared universe. This feels like reading a comic and hearing like, oh, I get it, and then flip the page. Like, I thought that was the perfect delivery for Madripoor and for the MCU at whole.
You know, in the last episode, there was a book that had Asgard on it and Wakanda.
You know, in the first episode, when they hit that bus, the bus had the GRC on it, which is the thing they mentioned about like monitoring stuff in Phase 4. Little details, but Madripoor's out loud and cool.
Yeah. You know what I think that what might have the reason why the emotional effect might have felt like it was moving too fast. There was a lot of new characters in this episode. That's, you know,
yeah, absolutely.
Like, it feels like a new setup.
That's what I was like. Did I miss something in the last one? Like, and I was like replaying the previous thing on my head. I was like, no, that's where I left off. Like, it's just like, did I miss something in a week?
Yeah,
that is a good point, because it didn't hit me at the time, and this episode gave me part of what I was hoping for last time, which was, okay, now we're gonna do the Mark with Steven breaking through episode, and yeah, it didn't hit me until now, but you are dealing with so many new places and people the whole time. To quickly touch back on that thing that you said about the fighting, I think that too goes against the theory that this is all in his head or that there's some kind of alternate reality that we're experiencing here, because the more he teleports around and the more other people acknowledge the more it feels like, and even things like the jackal or her being aware of the suit, it seems like this is a tangible thing that is actually magical and is actually happening. It hit me during this that this has two themes that are like really kind of cyclical throughout the MCU. So even though it's not like reference heavy, it is dealing with how do we handle preventative crime fighting and also gods not wanting to interfere with the follies and squabbles of man. Those converge here in a really heavy way, and it's like we had that in Civil War with the whole, you know, like eyes in the sky kind of thing. And I'm watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 7 right now, and that's all about the past and hey, should we take the shot in the past if it means preventing blah 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 in the future? Like there's so much about preventative crime in the MCU, and I'm now also waiting for them to take that one step further because we have this format to do that in, and I thought there were some good arguments toward that within this episode on display, and that was some of the strongest stuff they did here.
We don't often talk about the macro of our world in relation to the MCU, but bringing up preventative crime, and something I've been thinking about a lot in our fiction, is obviously we're living in an age of like needing the moral compass of heroes in our fiction because our world feels like it's crumbling at all times, and we're seeing as we get older more and more evil go unchecked, and all of our governments and all of our formats aren't actually doing any of the things that we were raised to think they were to do. But we're entering an age of like recording everything in a very Orwellian sense. We literally film everything to the point where there's going to be a time when the 90s and 80s and earlier are going to be considered prehistoric because there isn't going to be an objectivity. A subjectivity. Everything is going to be an objectivity. Everything is going to be recorded, so it's going to be like, this is true, this is not. But then, very soon thereafter, there's going to be a level of deepfakes and a level of unreality where we're not going to actually know what is real on record or not because we're already getting deepfake visual and voices that are almost photorealistic. So we're going to have this short window where objectivity is going to take over, and what's that going to look like with preventative crime when everything is so point, shoot, true, false, and what is that grayscale of morality going to be versus law, because so many laws are so outdated with the current structure of reality.
It's a great philosophical point.
Because Marvel addresses that in each of their films, like we're saying, but we don't look at that in our day-to-day, we don't reflect that as much, but this show doing that through something so elevated as Egyptian gods from historic times is really interesting to look at how you feel about certain things, how you feel about Harrow, how you feel about Mark, how you feel about Steven, in relation to how it affects your day-to-day life of what you perceive these laws and realities and rules as. Does that make any sense?
You got that all from this one episode?
I got that all from life, Greg. I got that all from life.
That is a great societal point of view. I think at its core with the MCU, and in this show in particular, really focuses on what its characters is about self-acceptance. That's probably the top theme, I think. Like this whole thing with Mark and Steven is they're at odds with one another, and Mark clearly doesn't like himself and feels ashamed. Steven feeling like he's not good enough. And if you look at all our other characters in the MCU, a lot of times their arc is learning to be like, you know what? I am enough. I can do this
for me.
Yeah. Whatever my affliction might be is actually also part of my strength.
And that's so comic booky. Like that's one of the things I like about comic books is your weakness is often your strength, and the things that make you unique are the thing that makes you strong. And I mean, I think in all of our lives, once we accepted more of our weird shit, we became better at our jobs and our lives and our personal lives and our relationships. And I think that the Marvel characters are very good at going like, hey, X-Men, what makes you a freak is your strength. Hey, Spider-Man, that like blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I think Moon Knight accepting that Steven is the strength in some circumstances and Mark is the strength in others. When Mark literally kills people in Steven's little dweeb, those strengths are really incredible to have with two characters competing for a body.
I do gotta say, Steven did kind of annoy me a little bit when Mark was fighting off those people and killing them.
He needed to let go,
and Steven was like interfering. He let go, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? That's the one time I got. I know some people are back and forth with Steven. Oh, is he an annoying character or not? A lot of people actually like fight about that. I've seen in the comments. I don't find him annoying. I like him a lot. I love him. I actually like him more than Mark. I think he's a much more amusing personality than Mark. Like Mark is, I don't know, getting more Mark in this episode. I enjoyed him. I think Oscar Isaac does a great job, but let's face it, his portrayal is like, it's a little bit more straightforward. Well, it's about what you'd expect.
Mark's a hammer and Steven's more of a fine-tooth comb. Like they're different skill sets.
No, yeah, 1,000%. I think that's what works best with Mark is when he's interacting with Steven is the complement of the personalities.
Right.
That's why I love those scenes so much is because of that. But when you don't have like Mark really interacting with Steven or Khonshu for that matter, I don't find Mark anywhere near as engaging as I do find Steven particularly. Although whenever he is donning Moon Knight, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go Moon Knight. That's great. Now we got to talk really quick. A couple of theories. You might want to turn off the video now in case. Just a couple of theories here. One, Jake Lockley, the cab driver personality, who's more of like the guy on the it would stand to reason that it could be Jake Lockley as that third personality. Jake Lockley is more of like the dude who goes on the streets, gathers information and whatnot, you know, walks amongst the people. And so I could see him being like, yeah, he's out and about, and this is like in the daylight, because I was like a little bit stricken by, oh wow, Mark's just out there in the daylight, messing people up on rooftops right now. Okay, cool. So I could see it being Jake Lockley.
I think Jake might be our lead for the last third. I think Jake might come in at the end.
That'd be surprising, yeah.
Well, think about how, like, we talked about how she doesn't really know Mark. Steven doesn't feel like he has a lot of history. We don't know the stuff with Steven and his mom and the later Gator stuff, all those things. And then these blips first introduce the idea of there being someone else. What if these two are in Jake's head?
True. Well, it's interesting because Mark brought up a point about, like, I thought I was fine for like the last few years, but only recently I started breaking. So it seems like Mark has been aware of his other personalities for a while, which would be comic accurate. But then he suppressed them to the point where they forgot.
Yeah.
Or like Steve and Grant forgot about Mark.
And what's time perception when you're trapped in the mirror? And like, how long is anything for another personality?
So I think that could be the case. With Layla, it seems like that she would be the daughter of, because in the comic, around the time before when Marc Spector's just mercenary, and then there's a guy in the Lemire Smallwood run, they paint him to look like Sam Neill from Jurassic Park. He gets killed. I don't think that character was Layla, but I think they would probably adopt her to be here. That would probably be why Mark is like, I feel guilty, shut up. Maybe she doesn't know he was involved.
Yeah, I think he killed Sam Neill.
You think so?
Yeah, I think
Mark killed her dad?
I
feel like you'd be on the same mission, but maybe...
I think he killed him.
Wow.
I think that's what Harrow's holding. I think Harrow knows.
Would they go that far?
I think they
in the
might.
show?
Or maybe he's somehow responsible in
an
like
indirect
way, or maybe he wasn't able to save him or something.
I do think
that's why I'm saying he was part of. He was like there when it
I
happened.
think he murked him.
I feel like it would be
wearing a mask.
I feel like it would be an interesting challenge if they actually let him be the one who did it.
Because then what would the conversation be about her loving Steven and not Mark?
Yeah.
Because Mark killed her dad, but Steven didn't. Same body though. How do you forgive the body of a man?
There's a philosophical question.
If you've got multiple personalities and one of them
It's
killed,
a common problem with people who date people with the idea.
like you said, polyamory's weird. Gets complex.
Get all your polyamory in a one-stop shop. Marc Spector, Stephen Grant, Jake Lockley.
They're probably different too. Like
They
he'd be like a
do.
gentle
They
lover, and Mark would probably be more aggressive. One might be subservient, one might be a dom. They probably have different kinks.
You know, that body is...
Steve would be like, I don't know what to do right now.
I like the idea that Steven can hang and Mark can't.
I can't get up right now.
I think Steven has got all that geeky like stamina, and Mark's got too much PTSD where he's actually the struggle. I think Steven's better than Mark.
And no, but Jake cleans up more.
Oh,
than
Jake
anybody,
handles
'cause
it.
just
Jake's
the
the
back
man
of
on
that
the street.
cab all day.
He knows what he's doing. That's why you need Jake the second third of the show.
He knows
Third
all
third
the
of the
good
show.
alleyways. I want the second half of the show should be like Eyes Wide Shut in Egypt.
Gotta send this to Disney and let them know what we want.
Make it happen.
You know, when you're tired and I'm tired, we perform at two very different energy levels. It's
I have to
fascinating.
be ramping up in order to not die.
You're still remarkably sharp. Go ahead.
I go up and up in order to not fall asleep.
It's impressive. I wish I had some food here. Guys.
Sandwiches. Overstuffed.
What'd you think? Leave your thoughts down below. Hey, we'll catch you guys soon. Check us out on Patreon.